Good evening. Welcome to the RSU 5 Board of Directors meeting. It is Wednesday, May 8th, 2024. We are here at the Freeport High School Library. We have a few folks who aren't able to join us tonight, but we will get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Do I have a motion for consideration and approval of the minutes from the April 24th, 2024 meeting as presented, barring any errors or omissions? Kelly, thank you. Second from Cheyenne. All those in favor? Great. None opposed. Adjustments?
I have one this evening, 8 reports from the superintendent. Under letter B, I have some additional resignations to announce, and those are all the adjustments.
Okay, great. So we will move right along to good news and recognition, and we will send it over to Phoebe for our student board rep report.
All right. Okay. So as always, we are busy and having fun at the high school. So next Wednesday, we're participating in a walk to raise money for Make a Wish Maine. So students are collecting pledges, and we're going to be donating to this amazing organization that helps so many kids get their wishes granted. And we had an assembly, like a presentation from them last week. And then next week we'll have our walk during advisory. And then this week on Monday, the National Honor Society inducted 23 new members, which is awesome. And today, Active Minds Club hosted a wellness day during advisory. So we had art stations, we had a yoga teacher come in and teach yoga and sound healing. We had creative writing, and we had Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Yes, so that was really great. We had an awesome turnout. The student leadership team has been presenting the data that they have gotten from the conversations they hosted in the fall, and groups have been presenting to the teacher leadership team and to the other students. AP testing has started this week, which I'm sure some kids are happy about. And then on next Tuesday in the FPAC lobby is FHS Arts Night, which is a display of visual arts from the visual arts students. So the upperclassmen in AP and honors art classes will be showcasing their work, and it will be for sale. And then the National Art Honor Society is hosting an art auction to benefit the Make a Wish Maine Foundation. And then last night was the FHS and FMS band concert. So congrats to all the Freeport band members that performed.
Thank you. And congratulations to Danielle for her daughter being inducted to the National Honor Society. I loved it because there was a picture of 4 softball players being inducted, literally from the end of their game, walked through the door, dirt and uniform and all, put that blue stole on. I love it. So good for them. It's a great day.
And you missed the senior who was on the other side, who was inducted last year. 5.
Thank you for that. So we will move on to 7 public comment. Marie? No? Well, there's only one person in the audience. I want to make sure they have their opportunity. She's good. Okay, so we will move on to number 8 on the agenda, report from the superintendent.
All right, under letter A, I want to this time of year we remind everyone of some pretty important district happenings that are occurring during this last part of the school year. There's a tremendous amount of work being done to transition our families and students between schools. In addition, our schools are busily preparing for our incoming kindergarten class. We're going to be welcoming the class of 2037 in the fall. Be sure to check the district event calendar for specific information about many upcoming spring performances and special celebrations. And I thank Phoebe for calling some of those out here at the high school. And for the public budget, we have a couple important meeting dates. Next Wednesday, May 15th, is our annual budget meeting right here at Freeport High School at 6:30 in the gymnasium. And then it will be followed by the June 11th budget vote referendum in each town. Freeport High School graduation is coming up June 11th, 10 a.m. in Merrill Auditorium. This is a ticketed event. And I'll remind board members, Ginny sent out an email today. If you are attending, please RSVP and let her know. Either way, yes or no, or if you'll be attending. Last day of school is a little wonky
It's
this year.
June 9th, not June
June
11th.
9th. I'm sorry, June 9th.
You just
yes.
gave me a heart
Yes,
attack.
thank you. Thank you. June 11th is the budget vote referendum. I put it on the wrong one. That's right. Please don't come on that day. You'll miss graduation. And Garrett will be very sad not to shake your hand, Michelle. Okay. So a last day of school, June 12th will be the last day of school for schools in Freeport, Durham, and Pownell. That was because of two weather events. And if you recall, Durham could not attend on a third day. So their last day will be on June 13th, one day later. So lots of events. Please check the district website and event calendar for all those things coming up. Letter B, the resignations this evening. Thomas McLaughlin, Moore Street School Educational Technician. Nate Menefield, FMS FHS music teacher. Ben Potvin, MLS music teacher. Marguerite Schnuck, FHS social worker. And Lynn Kopich, Community Programs Adult Education Coordinator. And we wish all those folks the best in their new career.
That's it? Okay. So we will move on to administrator reports. Kelly.
Good evening. Included in your packet this evening are the expenditures through April 30, 2024. As of April 30, 2024, we were about 83.5% collected in the revenues that we had anticipated, as we discussed at last week's meeting. Sorry, last week seems like last week. Last month's meeting, we in the number you'll hear about the expenditures, which are about 91.8% expended and encumbered. There's a little variance there because some of the items in the revenues we have not had to spend, or we have not had to dip into the amount of undesignated fund balance that we had planned on spending as of yet. So that number is not recorded as a revenue. So it keeps that number a little lower. But right now, the largest part of the spring ordering has been done by the schools. There's very little that's trickling in. So all of that was done by April break. And right now we're in the process of processing all of their, getting it in, checking in and receiving it and sending over to our office so that we can get it paid for them. So when we look at the March one, we'll probably have a much more accurate number of where we're at. The business office is beginning the process of preparing our financial software to roll over to the new fiscal year in anticipation of the budget passing on June 11th at the budget validation referendum. So we'll be busy over the next couple of weeks.
Questions for Kelly? Thank you. Thanks. All right. Moving right along to number 10 on the agenda, board comments and committee reports. 10A is the board information exchange agenda requests. Beth.
Just one small announcement to add to the things that Jean and Phoebe mentioned is next Tuesday is along with the arts night is also the choral concert. And I'm not sure if I think it might be the middle school and the high school doing a choral concert together, and also cabaret. So there's a lot to see that night at the high school.
Very exciting. Kelly.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a plug for the Meeting House Arts upcoming program called Our Town, a Community Self-Portrait. And I would like to see our students in the RSU 5 getting involved in this project. So Meeting House Arts is inviting the RSU 5 community to participate in this Our Town, a Community Self-Portrait, which is a community-driven documentary project funded in part by the National Endowment for the Arts. This is going to be a project where for 2 weeks between May 25th and June 8, Freeport residents, businesses, students will capture and describe this town's essence through photography and words. And their work, a collective commentary and snapshot of this time, will be the basis for exhibitions and community conversations in the fall. So to participate, anybody can go online to www.meetinghousearts.org on May 25th. That's when the project opens. And anybody who doesn't have a cell phone or digital camera, Meeting House Arts has made Our Town camera and journal kits that will be available in the community library, community services, and at the Meeting House Arts Gallery. And the window for submissions of images and writings will close at the end of Saturday, June 8. And then in support of this project, they have a couple of workshops that they invite the public as well as students and anybody who would like to attend. The first is on May 16th at 6 p.m. It's a photography and writing workshop that will feature photographer Jack Montgomery and writer Sasha Goodwin. And this workshop will focus on portraiture, both by word through poetry and by images through photography. The second one will be on Saturday, May 18 from 9 to 12:30. And this will be local couple novelist Caitlin Shetterly and photographer Daniel Davis. And their workshop will be focused on how to tell people's stories with integrity, sensitivity, and narrative. So encourage anybody with interest to get involved in those things. And we'd like to see your work come fall.
Do we know if they shared those workshops with like the photography teacher here at the high school and to make sure that they're aware?
I'm not sure if they did, but I know that they would have wanted to.
Yeah. So maybe we can make sure we get it to Jen and she can share it with the art teachers or the writing teachers, because I know there's.
Right. They did specifically mention in the May 18th one that there's a age 15 and up with special breakout groups for teens. So teens were specifically mentioned. So I think that they would really love to see some high school students getting involved.
Yeah. So let's make sure that the teachers can share that. So because it's next week, right? Yeah. Week from Saturday. Thank you. Danielle.
I just wanted to mention, yesterday I went to MIT with my daughter for some leadership student work, and it was very impressive. I just talked to Phoebe about it for a little bit as well, but I think they have some really good things that I think would be nice for the board to kind of talk about and see if we could get involved in. But they had a youth presentation from Newark about absenteeism from the students' perspective, right? So the students were interviewing students on like why they weren't going to school, and they're trying to come up with solutions. And to me, I think what a great idea to have our student leaders work with the board and on items like that, and to get kids involved in things. And they also had a lot of information about getting the community involved in the board as well, which I think is beneficial. So I don't know if we could talk about maybe that during the retreat or some stuff like that.
I think that's a great idea. I felt like they were doing a presentation to the board.
They're going to try to do a presentation to the board. I know
Yes.
times I had the
Time
pleasure
is-
hearing from Izzy and some of the because they have different subgroups, and I think time is the tricky part where some of the kids are in senior projects and finishing up, and they're trying to smooth out their presentations and going to MIT and so forth. So it's on the calendar for June. I'm not certain if it's going to happen or not. Jen's going to work and see.
Okay. I hope it does.
Sorry, just on that, I think if it can't happen for all the reasons, the good reasons why it might not, I think it's still important that we know the information that they're gathering. So, and again, that if that needs some labor on our part or on the administration's part rather than on the students' part, then we should just know that, like what it would take for us to make sure we get that information so it doesn't vanish with the students.
I hear about it every day, so
just
I'm
go
more
to
than
Danielle.
happy.
I see. All right, so
You can
Danielle will
all
just
come
tell us
over for
about it.
dinner and you can listen. and Jean, I want to say thank you. My daughter was very happy to be able to present to you, and she just thinks very highly of your responses and just very welcoming for them to be able to talk to you. So thank you for that.
So I just wanted to give a quick update from some of the goings on at Region 10, the technical high school. First is just we have a sense now of what the numbers are looking like for next year at Region 10, and it's looking like there's an enrollment of between 370 and 380, which is on the higher end for them. So they're really happy with how the enrollment is looking. There are 2 new classes that have that are being launched next year. One is electrical engineering. There's a waiting list only for that class. It's been for that track, excuse me. So that's really popular. Also, the cybersecurity is a course that's being launched, and there still is space in that. So I think we've been talking about how to spread the word a little bit, both within the school, but also within the community, for how to might be developing some interest around that. I also had the opportunity to go to the Student of the Quarter breakfast at Region 10, happens quarterly. And it's an opportunity to celebrate students in different tracks, including building trades, certified nursing assistants, general trades, tech English, world history, foundation technology, JMG, auto collision repair, automotive technology, creative digital media, culinary arts, early childhood education, EMT, metal fabrication and welding, and pre-apprenticeship. And the culinary arts students make the breakfast, so they make all the eggs and the waffles and the very delicious bacon, sausage, and all those good things. And then there's a wonderful presentation, and Theodore Emery, who is a junior at Freeport High School, was the recipient of the Student of the Quarter Award for Outdoor Power Sports. So just wanted to congratulate Theodore Teddy on that. And just to say, I know we'll have an opening for the Region 10 representative from the board. In addition to myself, I would like to continue to represent us. But it is a really wonderful opportunity to just get a sense of how both our students from Freeport are engaging with Region 10, but also how we're engaging with the other communities on these issues as well.
Thank you.
I want to recognize that it is Teacher Appreciation Week, and I want to express my appreciation for all the teachers in the district. It's also Nurses Appreciation Week, so thank you to the school nurses as well.
Thank you. Thank you for the reminder. All right. So we will move on to 10B, Finance Committee. Beth.
All right. So we had a meeting on April 24th and talked about a few different things. Kelly presented the issue with the debit cards that we've had, and we're going to be moving towards a credit card. And we needed to establish a relationship with a different bank in order to have them issue us a credit card. So we're going to be doing that. We also had a discussion around the Stetson scholarship funds that we've accepted. We just kind of wanted a preliminary sort of discussion in the finance committee, but of course it's going to be coming before the entire board. So if you all have thoughts and feelings around how you feel that should be managed, or certainly bring those to our discussion on June 12th. And then Kelly put together a great packet describing all the grants that we apply for and receive and how they're used. And we didn't quite get to go over everything, but we will at some point soon. So if anybody has any interest in knowing about that, we have the information. And then, of course, the audit has been completed, submitted, and accepted. So that is always good news. I'll take questions if anybody has them.
Thank you. All right. Strategic Communications. Kat.
All right. So in February of this year, RSU5 conducted a satisfaction survey for parents to be able to share what they considered areas of strength as well as areas of growth in the schools. We received 452 surveys. The student enrollment at the time was approximately 2,053. And this report reviews the feedback that where parents shared what they considered what they strongly agreed with or someone agreed with, and also where they, so that's the top 75%, and then the 25% of where they shared what they somewhat disagreed or strongly disagreed with. And first, I want to thank all the parents who filled out the survey. It's really important to be able to have this mechanism of feedback from them, so we know how they feel about everything. We received a lot of fantastic feedback and hope that our district leadership and staff feel really proud of the areas that received the high remarks. Parents shared that they believe their students are being treated with respect by the adults around them. They have strong relationships with their teachers. They feel welcome in school that reflects a culture of pride. They're offered help when needed, and they're given quality learning materials and tech equipment. And a big area that we saw consistent positive remarks were that the schools are clean and well maintained. So shout out to the custodians for their work, making sure that stays that way. And the biggest consistent areas that suggested change and growth and improvement throughout the district are related to the food that is offered. So for the board members who reviewed the results, you may have noticed that was something that came up regularly. And we know that our director of school nutrition, Erin Dow, works really hard to provide healthy, affordable meals for our students. And we believe that Erin will take this feedback seriously. And I look forward to seeing what she comes up with going forward. Other areas of concern in some schools are not new. I think that the administration is well aware. And some things that came up were related to bullying, concerns around bullying or security, or related to appropriate amounts of homework. And so each school administrator received the results for their school and will be reflecting on them. But I think it's fair for us to look at them and consider what we might want to consider as goals for the upcoming years. And also for everyone to know that there will be more opportunities for parent feedback as we embark on the strategic planning process going forward.
Thank you, Kara, for this. And it's really interesting to look at. And I know, well, I don't know for sure, but I know we've done this survey in the past. Did you guys compare anything to a previous survey at all?
It's a really good question. And we didn't spend a lot of time doing that, to answer your question. I think the last one was,
Is it 2 years?
2
since,
years
like,
ago.
okay.
Yeah, feel free to add anything, Kelly.
Because I think we alternate the staff satisfaction and the parent satisfaction on alternating years. Yeah, I was
I
curious.
can
if-
say anecdotally for that, we did notice that was a time of masking, and there were a lot of conversations about masking or not. So that came up. That was feedback from that previous survey, that parents whether to mask or not.
Gosh, that was only 2 years ago. So just a math question. So we identified whether it was by school or by district. So were the options strongly agree, somewhat agree, somewhat disagree, strongly disagree? Were those your 4 choices? Was there a neutral?
Is there a neutral in the middle of that?
Because
trying to
I'm
remember.
thinking if those were your 4 choices, then pretty much every question should be either in 75 or above or 25, right? Like mathematically speaking.
There was a neutral.
Okay. That makes sense then.
And also I'll add that the parents were asked to fill out a survey per child. So not per school, it was per child. That's what we asked them to do.
Oh, okay. So I was thinking actually that 452 out of 2053 might actually be higher than 25% because if a parent has multiple kids, they probably didn't do multiple ones. But
Right. I think
maybe they
that math worked out to be around 22% if we divided the responses by the number of students.
Yeah. Okay. Questions, comments? Yeah.
Thank you so much for all this work and for especially pulling things to the top of what was most salient. I would love to have another opportunity to just hear some more about the question of homework and academic rigor, and what kind of what the drill down a little bit in that area and have a better sense of what of sort of what is being asked for, and then what are the obstacles to achieving that from the school side. Whether there is, again, sort of what if that's being flagged as like homework isn't hard enough, homework is not appropriate enough, what is the thing that is in the way of that from the educator's perspective, and then similarly, what is it we're hearing about why it's not enough. That's not tonight, but just sometime. I think we should have that conversation
Well,
because it seems like
yeah.
it popped up again and again, and it just seems like we need to address that. In some way.
Yeah, I think it was different for each school too. So some schools, and the question was whether it was appropriate amount. So parents could have answered that saying it wasn't the appropriate amount. They wanted their children to receive more, and some may have said they thought it was too much. So it wasn't really, it was just whether it was an appropriate level in general. But I think that we did see some comments at different schools that may have said that they wish their kids received more homework and prepared them better for the next school that they were going to, and other comments that may not have been specific.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think also some of the comments weren't specifically to certain groups of students, such as gifted and talented. They felt that the amount of homework given to their specific gifted and talented child may not have been enough to support their level of learning. So it really just varied according to the situation. They weren't universally one situation that was always the problem in every school.
I think those are great questions, though, Colin, and I think that I look forward to hearing what the schools take away from this and what they consider in their goals for next year when they give their reports. I think it would be good to look back on these results.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is you guys have done a lot of work distilling this down for us, giving us sort of the highlights. We've shared it with the principals. The parents have obviously taken a tremendous amount of time to provide the information. So then for me, the next obvious step is, okay, what are we doing with it? Right? It's not like, oh, okay, well, that was nice. Let's see what happens in 2 years, right? My hope is that they take these, and obviously there's a lot of data points that they're using, right? They have their actual testing data. They have all sorts of information that they're using to build their goals and their plans for next year. But my hope and maybe assumption is that they are using this as some data points to help inform that as well.
So I just did have a question, and maybe, as older board members, you guys could kind of speak upon that. It's just a little bit older. But as far as, just like the standard for every school, pretty much every parent did talk about the nutrition program and just kind of the lack. And I'm sure there's a variant about what they're talking about for the food. So my question is, with the budget cut, how does it support the nutrition program going forward for the next school year? Like, how would we, I guess just my understanding is, how would we go forward for that, for the next school year, to improve it based off of these concerns for this evaluation?
So I'm not sure that the concerns that folks have are necessarily directly correlated to a lack of money.
Okay.
I think some of it might be, sort of misunderstanding. So the sugar content piece, that's the one that popped out on to me a couple times. I mean, those are regulated by the federal government, right? So it can't be, even if it looks like it's something you can buy in the grocery store, it's not. It's whole grain. The sugar content is half of which is probably why the kids don't like it. But that's a different story. But I think some of it is, making sure people understand that piece of it, because and maybe there just needs to be other choices. I know one of the things that Erin has really focused on in the last several years is like increasing the amount of local, right? Like things that come within 25 to 50 miles from here, right? And I think all those sort of things help. It's always a struggle with school nutrition. I've looked at other school lunches where they're literally giving kids Lunchables. They're like, how is that okay, right? Like they're not making any food in-house. So I think it's a balancing act. It's certainly feedback I'm sure Erin will take and use, but I don't know if it's necessarily a money issue.
Got it. Thank you.
But I'm sure Erin will tell us if I'm wrong. Kelly.
Yeah, just to add to that, first of all, I think there are some situations where it wouldn't be a budget issue, but it would be something where if we chose or she chose to, it could be, say, for example, we don't offer chocolate milk in our lunch program because it has a lot of sugar in it. But the second issue is, from what I understand from Aaron, the FDA either has recently or will issue new school nutrition guidelines that apparently are probably going to reduce the amount of sugar that's allowed into our meals. So it may be that the government has actually addressed this for us.
Yeah, I guess I would just say that just to your point of like my limited experience on the board so far has just been that I've just been very impressed with the way Erin runs the program and the creative efforts she's gone to work within the restrictions that she has in terms of budget. And so I guess I guess I'm not going to say I'm surprised at this response. I guess I'm just from the parents. I guess I'm just I would again I would just love to know more about like, well, what would be the like it's what is the desire, what are the desired things, like what are the is it about a desire for chocolate milk because that would be more nutritious and healthy, or is it a greater desire for kale and bok choy? Like what's the like what are some of the details of like what would that actually be? Because I think there's a lot that could be read into what that really means, and that's not in any way to diminish the parents or the kids' views on that. But just knowing how hard Erin has worked on that, I know that there's some sort of disconnect there that I know, again, to Michelle's point, that she'll be looking at.
I can tell when Beth is when one of the answers, it looks like, you know, or the things that we could comment on was my child enjoys the food offerings at school. And I know, I mean, I have a couple of picky eaters, and I know that there are probably other picky eaters. And I think that sometimes a lot of those eaters maybe aren't adventurous and don't want to try the things that are there. So to me, that it almost doesn't, I mean, that's a very limited anecdotal thing, but I think enjoying the food offerings at school, you know, could be based on the child more than what the food is actually being offered. So it's just a thought.
I have two kids that are the least picky kids ever. They are getting not enough food and not good food. It's like sloppy joes and hot dogs. And we're cutting money out of the budget, which doesn't make sense. The FDA doesn't even have a limit for the amount of lead that is permitted in food, and those Lunchables that they're feeding in schools. They have a pizza, the pizza, whatever you want to call it, flavor has something like 25 times the amount of lead that is even like healthy is a stupid word because healthy is zero amount of lead, but it's like the most 25 times more than what you're like at most supposed to eat. That I think we should take this more seriously. It's important. Feeding kids is probably the most important thing that we do.
Yeah, it certainly is. I wonder. I don't know. It is sort of a cross of answers, right? So we're seeing these answers, and then when we talk to Erin and she's talking about the growth in the program, it's sort of counter to like if people don't like the food, the first way we see that is people stop buying the food, right? They find other ways to do it. Now I know that is not an option for everyone, and I certainly acknowledge that. But I guess I would feel that we wouldn't have seen the growth in the program over the last several years if I don't know. It's a little bit confusing. Maura, I want to hear what Phoebe has to say too if she wants to share. But
I agree with Colin that there's a little bit of a disconnect because I know how hard Erin and her staff have worked. But also as a parent who sees those menus, I can relate to some of the other comments because I know there's processed meats on there, which we're beginning to gain a greater understanding that's not something that we should eat on a regular basis. And so I think that some of the federal guidelines haven't been updated, and that's great that they are, Kelly. Or some of them may be influenced by, powerful interests who aren't, looking out for the best interests of kids necessarily. So, but I think there's certain things on there that sometimes folks might think is processed that is maybe homemade. I don't know about all the examples, but I know, for example, we have fresh fish. So sometimes when you see fish sticks on there, that's actually like fresh caught local Maine fish. And I'm sure there's some limitations with our staff in terms of like the amount of food that they could process and create from scratch. But I would love to see more of it that's, from scratch, but I know that's more labor intensive. So those are my thoughts. I just do notice it sometimes seems heavy, meat processed heavy, but there's always an option of vegetables and a healthy choice. But at least for me personally, I know my kid's not always making that choice. So
Yeah, I want to acknowledge too how difficult the balance is between making a meal affordable, making it palatable for kids so they want to eat it, and also making it so that it's nutritious. So I just want to give a shout out to Erin for doing her best and doing a great job of trying to balance those three different factors when she's making these menus. And I also want to acknowledge, I think that growth is always possible. We don't have to reach the gold standard just to make one or two changes that can lead us to a healthier place.
And I also just, with your thought about the growing amount of meals that we're serving, that this response that we're looking at, like you said, is 22% of our district. So it doesn't even represent a majority. It represents that small amount. So while it is the data that we have and we should take action, on that, I just keep it in perspective that it's not a 100% across the board. Everybody feels this way.
But it's a pretty good sampling, right? Like almost 25% is a decent response to, I know we'd love it to be 100, but slackers like me forgot to do it. So, you're never going to get to 100, but I feel like, I don't know. Some of you research-based people, what's a good,
I suppose I just did have a question on my understanding. I guess this is revealing there are many gaps in here, but one of the gaps is around the full understanding of the funding stream for nutrition. And my understanding is that a great deal of that comes through the federal government, right? And that we don't have any control, or we have limited control over exactly how that can be used, or the ways in which that can be leveraged. I suppose, like, just to your question, Cheyenne, of like, yes, we are we are reducing the budget by $100,000. That was at Erin's, Erin believed that was a good move for a variety of things when it was due. I suppose one question that is sort of we might return to maybe next year is just to say, like, all right, like, if most public schools take the lion's share of their funding from the federal government, what would a amendment to that look like? Like, what would it mean if we threw in $500,000 next year, and then an additional 300 the next year, 200 the next year? Like, what would that look like, and what would that, like, how would that actually work? And would that put us in a position where we would be, to Kelly's point, like getting closer to that gold standard, or is that really not how it works? That's just, again, I'm expressing my lack of understanding of that, but I would just put that to the experts on that to sort of advise us. And because my sense is, it's not like by taking that $100,000 away, we're taking $100,000 worth of good food away. So, like, and I'm not suggesting you were saying that, Cheyenne, but like, that's just, like, I can understand how that would be like, well, we don't have $100,000 to like buy the better fruit, or, but I think it would be good to be able to have a clearer narrative on how we can explain that to the parents and students.
anything you want to share, Phoebe? You don't have to. It's just, well, we have a student sitting with us sometimes.
Yeah, totally. Well, I would say I get like lunch from school maybe like half the time. Like, I'm not a morning person, so I'm not great at packing my lunch. But I mean, I know it's different at other schools, but at the high school, like, at I'm not a very picky eater, but I am a vegetarian, so that limits me. But at the high school, I have a problem with getting something to eat, and for me, like, if I don't eat breakfast or if I don't eat lunch, like, it's gonna affect my academics. So like I try to like be able to stop in for breakfast and for lunch, and there's always like an option for me and I think for most kids. Um so that's not really been a huge struggle. Um the salad bar I think is something that is like at all the schools in the district, which um maybe not all the kids utilize, but I think a lot of kids at the high school really like they have like the lots of vegetables, and that's really great. Um, yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. All right. Other comments, questions on sort of the whole parent survey? Doesn't have to be nutrition based. Well, I guess our feedback, our last comment on this for Eugene is as we look forward to seeing how this weaves into stuff for next year. All right. We have no policy or unfinished business on the agenda for tonight, so we will move on to new business. And I will get a motion on the floor before Cynthia gets started. Do I have a motion for consideration and approval of the comprehensive education plan? Beth, thank you. Carolyn? All right.
Okay. Good evening. Your item 13A, the green sheet. Basically, annually we are required to keep a comprehensive education plan. It's housed in my office in a big, I don't know, probably 4-inch binder. And there are several different components to that. I think there are like 24 different components to or sections in this binder. And so we have to keep, it basically is plans for how our district operates, and we're required to keep that. So there's several different sections, and anytime that it's updated, I replace it with the new, and then make a note of it and put it here for you to see and vote on that. And you're always invited to come. If any of you care to peruse what's in it, just call me up and we'll set up a time, and more than happy to do that. So what we have tonight is under the special education plan. You're going to see that on there every year. And it's just basically updating the new dates for the upcoming year. The crisis response plan, the one policy that was changed earlier in this year, I think it was around October, was our bomb threat policy. So that's been updated in the plan. And then every year you're also going to see the next one, and that is our ESSA fund. So that is our federal title grants. So it's the whole new application that once approved is put in and replaced in there every year. And it talks about how we're spending the money and what projects. And that's the end of my report.
Questions for Cynthia?
Just a quick question about the policy. Is that like a district policy that we have, or is
Yes.
this specific?
Yes.
Okay.
So when I refer to policies in here, they're actual real policies, right?
District
And there's
policies, so
several.
we can look online to look at it, because I don't
Yes.
remember us talking about the bomb threat policy.
We did, yeah.
I know. I just
Earlier,
don't
remember? I'll defer to the
I
chair.
mean,
It was
I-
around October. Oh, right there, October 25th.
Yeah, yeah, I believe you. I just don't remember it. So that's why I wanted to check it out.
Yes.
I'm sure it was. I probably ran the meeting. Sorry. It must not have been an extensive discussion about it.
No, I
so-
don't think there was.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Great. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. We will take a vote. All those in favor? Great. None
Thank you.
opposed. Thanks, Cynthia. All right. So we will move on to 14, personnel. So Salmon in your folder. We will start with 14A. Do I have a motion for consideration and approval to employ a school psychologist for the 24-25 school year? Kelly and Mara, thank you.
Okay, this evening I present Kent Gemmel for our school psychologist. Kent has a BA in psychology from Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut, a master's in school psychology from Fairfield University, postgraduate certificate program, school neuropsychology from Texas Women's University in Denton, Texas. He does hold certification as a school psychologist. Professional experience, he was an associate school psychologist at SAU 29 in Keene, New Hampshire, a school psychologist at Brookfield Public Schools and Huckleberry Hill Elementary School. I like that name, Huckleberry Hill Elementary, and Brookfield High School in Brookfield, Connecticut. References describe Kent as having a strong diagnostic ability in digging deeper than most to understand the underlying issue. He's able to develop strong relationships with challenging students. He's a calming force in meetings. He's well respected, and he ensures things make sense to parents.
Great, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments, questions? Kara?
I'm wondering if you could give a quick summary of this position in general and where they are in the district. Like, where do they have an office somewhere? Is
Sure.
there an opportunity when we would get to meet the school
Sure.
psychologist?
So we have a couple of school psychologist positions. We have one psychologist we employ right now. We had a second one that left us last year, so we've been doing some contracted services for that position. So Kent will be filling a position we've not been able to fill all year. So we're thrilled he'll be joining us. That role is connected primarily with special education. So their role is in during the referral process. If there's some testing that needs to be done, they'll do that testing. They'll do work with parents. Sometimes there are certain tools, diagnostic tools a parent needs to fill out so that the school psychologist can make a diagnostic impression when they come into an IEP meeting. They would make suggestions. There might be some accommodations that the student needs, and they're an integral part of that process. So there will be this, actually Kent, I will tell you, his office will be housed at Mass Landing School, because there's a lovely spot there, but he'll serve other schools as well. So with our psychologists, they sort of have a home base, because I say everybody needs a place to put their lunchbox and know where they can hang their coat. That's important for us as human beings. So that's where he'll be. But he'll be at other schools when he's testing a student in another school. We'll provide a space for him to do that.
Yes, Cheyenne.
I just want to say that I think it is interesting because he went to my university, Texas Women, and so I actually worked with a lot of people in the school psych program.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other comments, questions? All right, all those in favor? None opposed, thank you. All right, 14B. Do I have a motion for consideration and approval to employ a director of instructional support for the 24-25 school year? Kelly and Cheyenne, thank you.
Last week, I shared with you the process of what our interviewing committee was working with to employ a new director of instructional support, and I'm very pleased to present to you this evening Alicia Morris. And I will say Alicia has joined us here. That's the face near Cynthia. She's wanted to come and join us for our meeting, so I'm thrilled that she's here. And Alicia has, and I know she'll correct me if I have anything wrong. She has an associate's degree in special education from Kennebec Valley Community College in Fairfield, a BA in psychology from the University of New England, and a master's in educational leadership from the University of Maine at Farmington. She holds certification as an administrator of special education for grades pre-K to 12. Relevant experience: she was a special education teacher in grades 6 to 8 at Day Treatment Program and MSAD 52 Tripp Middle School in Turner, Maine. She's been the coordinator of special education and assistant director at Acadia Academy in Lewiston. And she's currently the director of special services in MSAD 11, that's in Gardner, Maine. References describe Alicia as incredibly professional, forward-thinking, able to find creative solutions to staffing shortages, honest and direct, having a deep understanding of special education law. She's approachable, seeks out personal improvement, collaborative, and always has a lens of what's best for kids. And I know on behalf of, the committee, I thank our committee, and that we certainly all agree that Alicia would be a lovely fit for RSU 5, and we look forward to having her join us.
Comments, questions? All right. All those in favor? None opposed. Congratulations, Alicia. Welcome aboard. All right. So, personnel 14C. I just confirmed with Ginny that I don't have to read all of these names. I couldn't remember if I usually do or not. I'm glad I don't because I didn't practice them. So, we'll get the motion on the floor first and then we'll talk about it. So do we have a motion for consideration and approval to accept the nomination of the following personnel and to authorize the superintendent of schools to issue contracts in the 24-25 school year? So you'll see there's two sections. There's section 1, which is educators for a second year probationary contract. So those are folks that are finishing their first year in the district. So they would move to their second year of probationary contract next year. And then the second section under 2 is educators for continuing contract. So these are folks that are finishing their second year within the district and moving on to continuing contracts. So we don't have to vote each year. They're just automatically included in the contract that we have. So you can see all the names listed there. So do we have a motion? Danielle and Kara, thank you. Any questions? Nope. All right. All those in favor? Great. None opposed. We are, Marie literally ran out before I called her out again for the second public comment. Okay, so I don't think we have anyone for public comment this evening. So we will move on to 16. Do I have a motion for consideration and approval to enter into executive session as outlined in 1 MRSA section 4056D for the purpose of discussing administrator negotiations? Beth and Danielle, thank you. All right, we'll take a quick break. I think we're going to move around the corner. All right. So everybody can take their stuff with them.